Hello guys, I have shown you how to create a simple navigation. Now we have all the ingredients. I have done all the tutorials which are necessary just to get this tutorial done. And the tutorials which were necessary was authentication. I just showed to you how to create a simple authentication controller and authenticate your users. Now I can show you how you can combine your navigation, simple navigation, with the ACL, also authorization module. This wasn't necessary for this tutorial, but I have done it already. So probably you already know how to use the access control list and what the access control list means. Just to help you to recall a little bit, simple navigation is built very easy. Zend has done all the heavy lifting for us. All you have to do is just create one navigation array. Here it is. Actually, I have it open. They have two types of pages, navigational elements. Those are URA, let me show you that, MVC and URI. This is how they look. For the MVC pages, you have to mention the action, the controller, and the route, of course. Just to explain the navigation view helper, how to build the URL to this resource in our application. Also, we have added the resource and privilege as parameters, as properties to this object, but we haven't used it in the simple navigation. Once you build this navigation array, all you have to do is explain to the service manager how to instantiate one navigation object. As you can see in the section factories, you say navigation, and that's it. Service manager after that can be called, and you can get this navigation object from there. Factory, actually, it's looking in the configuration array for the key by the name of navigation and creates the navigation as a set, navigation object. Okay, now once we have this done, we have to display the navigation. That is done usually in the layout. I go to application, layout, and I add this string. Look at this. Right now I'm in my project, which is called FMI. Module application, this is the skeleton application, view layout PHTML. And on this line number 35, I'm just adding what is necessary to display the navigation. And as you can see, I have commented the original static navigation, if I can call it this way. Okay, that was it. This is what we did, just to show the navigation. Let me show you how it looks. Here it is. Let's look at the navigation array, navigation global, and explain it. Okay, in order to show home, this is the definition. In order to show album, here it is. This is the definition. As you can see, this submenu is here, and so on and so forth. Very simple, very easy. I have created already one tutorial for authorization, and I have shown to you how to use ACL, access control list, to control the access to your different controllers and actions which are treated in the world of ACL as resources and privileges. Okay, so let's say I have a resource which I'm not supposed to access. Why should I show the navigation element to this resource, right? Okay, let's see how can we control the navigation in the way so we will show only the navigational elements which will lead to resources which I'm allowed to access. In this case, I'm gonna use the ACL. Of course, it can be used to many different ways, but this is the way I'm gonna use it right now and demonstrate. Okay. Navigation is navigation. The magic happens in the so-called view helper. in this view helper here, navigation. So in order to do that, we as usual start with a module. No wonder, probably you already get used to that. So I have created one CSN navigation module, and it's extremely simple. I have only module. In the configuration file, my configuration file in fact is empty because I don't need that. I can even remove the configuration methods here. I don't really need them, but I have it just for any case. Okay, it's trivial stuff. The rest are just few experiments. You don't have to look at that. And the important part is here. Look at now, public function get view helper config. Okay, with this function, in fact, I can configure again the service manager. I can replace the definition from the navigation global here. This key will be replaced from what comes here from my module. As you can see again, factories, and the name of the key is navigation, and as I said, is going to replace the one I have in my navigation global. Okay, but I have to do a little bit more things here. Now, if you watch the tutorial about authorization, you already know that we have to know the resource, we have to know the privilege, we have to know the role, and we have to have the ACL. In order to decide, to let the ACL decide, do we have access to this resource and privilege or we don't? Okay, so the resources in fact are described already in the navigation. Here we go, resource, privilege. Okay, so what we are missing are the roles and the ACL itself, which we have to give to the navigation view helper. Okay, how we are going to do that? First, we have to get to the service manager. This is our main repository from which we get all our objects which are necessary. We get the configuration file, and I'm using the same parser which I used for authorization. It's a class in my module. Here it is, which inherits from Zend ACL, as you can see here. And all it does, it takes the configuration parameters and it builds the access control list object for us. So by saying this, instantiating actually an object from this class and giving the configuration array, what we are getting is already preset access control list in which we have roles defined, we have resources, we have privileges, we have everything. Permissions actually. Okay, so we have the access control list already filled with the information who has access to what. Okay, the first thing is done. We got the access control list. Now, from the authentication controller, we will get the information about the role which this user plays in our system. In order to do that, we again have to use the service manager. In the authorization example, I have shown that actually you can get access to the information of the user directly just by instantiating Zend authentication service. I wouldn't recommend that. You always have to turn to the service manager and get the authentication service from there. Or if you're in the controller action, you can directly turn to the controller plugin, which is has identity. This has identity. Okay, in this case, I'm doing this correctly. I'm calling the service manager and asking him, okay, give me the authentication service. Authentication service will return one object. I'm setting the role to default. The default is guest. In my database, I still don't have roles. I don't have such table, so that's why I have to match the numbers, the role ID, to a real name, role which I'm using here in the ACL, guest, member, admin. So let's say 1 will be guest, 2 will be member, 3 will be admin, or something like that. 1 will be something else, 2 I think is guest, 3 is member, and admin is 4. Okay. Now, I have to mention something very important. Based on those tutorials, this summer with 15 students actually we have built composer installable modules which are absolutely workable, and you can build the entire system with these modules. You can find there authentication, you can find authorization, you can find ACL navigation and content management system. So I will continue releasing more tutorials about how these modules have been built. I have done these tutorials in Bulgarian just to allow my students to finish the job. But if you're interested, you're more than welcome to go to GitHub CoolCSN. This is the home page for all our modules built based on these tutorials. And you also can participate because you will know how these modules are built. Of course, they're a little bit more advanced because we have used table roles in the database, but for the purposes of this tutorial, I just keep it simple. As you can see, I'm matching the numbers from the database and I'm setting the role names manually, which I wouldn't recommend in a real situation, but it's perfectly legal and it works perfectly. Okay, so let's continue now. Okay, I have the default role right now, and if my user has identity, I'm asking this object which is authentication service. I'm asking, okay, is this user has identity? If yes, then I say, okay, give me the identity, get identity. This user, in the case of using doctrine, and we are using doctrine, is in fact one instance for one of our entities, user. This is how you get the user role ID. Get user role ID. As I said, in a little bit more advanced application, here you will say get role and you will get the name of the role, but this is not the case right now, so that's why I'm getting only a number, and I manually match the numbers to the names of the roles. I say 1 is guest, 2 is member, 3 is admin, so on and so forth, and by default is guest. So if you don't know the role, assume that is guest. I don't want to represent something important to guys which I don't know. Okay, and now it's very simple. Now we get the navigation view helper, and we supply this navigation view helper with the ACL and the role. As I said already, in the navigation array, configuration array, we have set the resource, and here it is, the resource and the privilege. Notice something: the authorization mechanism and the authorization module and the navigation module, which we are building right now, are totally different. They can live absolutely separated from each other. But just to make it easier for me, I'm using the same resource names, as you can see, for the navigational element which leads, for example, to album index, and I'm using absolutely the same resource name for the authorization. In other words, the navigation takes care of what I see here. Authorization stays hidden behind and just listens. If you try to get access actually a controller and action which you don't suppose to get, it's gonna kick you back to the home page. As I said those are two different mechanisms. The common thing is the ACL. Both of them are using the same ACL. This is what I decided. This is my approach. The same ACL. This one. As you can see here, the resources have the same names. Let's find album. Album, controller, album. And here it is in the navigation. Album, controller, album. It's perfectly legal for the navigation to use different resource names and different privilege names, but for me it's more difficult and I don't do it this way. Okay, so here we go. This is the resource, those are the privileges, and those are the roles which have access to these actions. Guest and member has access only to add. Okay, so as you can guess, now we have to tell the application that we have a new module, CSN navigation. What's gonna happen now is, using the ACL, the access control list, our navigation helper will hide the elements to which I don't have access anyway. Even if I try to get to them, I will be kicked by the CSN authorization. Okay, let's try now. I will refresh, and here we go. Let's look at now the ACL. Album, controller, album. This is the resource in the ACL global. I'm using the same name as I said, just to be in sync and make it a little bit easier to understand for me. For this navigational element, I mean this one. Okay. In the ACL, I have described this. To index action of this controller has access guest, I mean everybody. To add action of the very same controller, the access has only the member. That's why, as you can see now, the album doesn't have a submenu, even though in the navigation it's supposed to be there, but it's not there because, look, the privilege is at the resources album, controller, album, and the ACL says no, don't show this because only the guest, only the member has access to add, and right now I'm a guest. Okay, let's log in and make sure I will see album add. I will become right now a member. My role will be changed. Here we go. Oop. Here we go. That's very important to understand. The access control list and the navigation. And they're put together, as I said, with one module. And in this module, the most important thing is the file module.php. There is, in fact, one more class in this module. That's the ACL parser, which parses the ACL configuration file and actually creates the access control list. That's all we have in this module. Module file and ACL parser, or ACL file, that's it. Okay, so now let's log out and I will show you how these navigational elements which lead to different controller actions to which the guest doesn't have access. Right now I have access. I can add, for example, album, or I can go to album. See, I don't want my guests, the guys which I don't know, to add albums here. I just want them to look at, but not being able to add. Of course, you can describe the rest of the actions. I just have been lazy and I didn't do it. I just wanted to demonstrate this with add action. Okay, right now, as a member, I have the privilege to add. And I will say I have the privilege artist Stoyan. Add, and here we go. I have a new record here which I have added as a member. But let's log out. Let's play the role of the guest. Now, as you can see, I just can see the album. The mechanism which prevents me from accessing the album controller and the action add, it's a different from navigation. I want to pay attention to that. Those are two different mechanisms. One is called authorization, another one is called navigation. Okay, let's say I remember the URL. It doesn't matter, you're not showing me right now the navigational item. I remember how to get there. In this case, the authorization will stop us and will redirect. See? There is no way for us to get to this controller and index. And on top of that, the navigation doesn't even show us the navigational item, the link to this controller and action, resource and privilege, which I cannot access. I am not meant to access. Okay, and as I said, this is done very easy with just using one module PHP and this method. That's it. You can see the code in GitHub Wingman007 FMI. You can see all the things there, and as I said, such module is installable through Composer. You just have to mention the vendor name, which is coolcsn/csn ACL navigation, because we have also a module for simple navigation. If you like, you can go to GitHub, you can fork, send pull requests, comment, whatever. Everybody is welcome. The comments are welcome. We have built a lot of modules, as I said, installable through Composer based on those tutorials, and I hope that you'll understand how these modules work right now. It's not a black magic for you because of these tutorials. Thank you for watching that, and see you soon.